Welcome everybody. Y'all ready for this? The Hustle. My name is Steve Aramopoulos, and these are my co-hosts.
I'm Talia.
And I'm Tech Luciano. You may have heard me on radio, you may have never heard of me at all, but that's okay.
Cause y'all gon' learn today. Your whole life was a struggle, had to make it out the jungle. This is a show for you. Welcome to the hustle, under pressure that will break a foe. Keep chasing your goals until you blow. Now, welcome to the hustle.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Hustle Podcast. Episode 96 or 97, I believe.
Oh my God, we're up there.
We're almost up there. We're almost up to that 100th episode.
Jesus.
It's been a while since we've been in the studio. I've been traveling the world. But we got a special guest here today with us. We got Adrian Carlos Vaillancourt. Am I saying it correctly?
Perfectly.
Perfect. See?
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to say that bio you sent me, it's like, usually when I introduce somebody, it's a little more straightforward. But with you, it's like you're doing all these great humanitarian stuff. You have a program that you just started, the Latin Adoptee Program.
Yeah.
And you built a school.
Yeah.
You helped build a school. You did a lot of great things. Like, I can't even sum it all up, bro.
Thank you so much for that nice introduction. Yeah. Should I just start with my story?
Look, I want you to tell the people your whole story,
Okay.
because it has to come out of your mouth,
Okay.
obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's a crazy story, guys.
Yeah.
You gotta hear it.
So I was adopted from Peru in South America when I was 2 weeks old. My dad here is Canadian and my mom is American. And they flew to Peru in 1991 because in the time then Peru was going through like civil war and stuff like that. So it was like a time where a lot of families were adopting Peruvian kids or babies. And they got a hold of I guess an agency, and they said, hey, like we have a guy for you, come down and pick him up. So that's what they did, and they went to the mountains in Peru because Peru is very vast. There's like the jungle, the coast, and then also to the mountains where there's a lot of hiking. So they went to the city I was born in, which is called Huancayo, and they met my biological family, so my dad and my mom and my grandmother. And I was like really malnourished when I was like younger because just everything, and my mom like because of the economical situation. So I was a really small baby. So in order for me to come back to Canada, they pretty much had to like fatten me up and everything. So my mom stayed in Peru for my adoptive mother stayed in Peru for 3 months from August till December with me to like fatten me up. And at the time then still like bombs were going off and stuff like that in Lima, in the capital. And my mom was so courageous because a lot of other families, a lot of other like adopted families who were adopting kids were just like staying inside and just really scared and whatever. But my mom was like, no, like I'm bringing my kid out to go to like walk around and stuff in the carriage and stuff. So I have to salute my mom for that, for just being courageous of still walking when like there's war going on and everything. And that was like the first 3 months of my life. I came here to Canada, and I grew up in the Laurentians up north, and that's how it went. And I grew up in a small town in Saint-Sever, so I was pretty much the only Peruvian Latin American person there. So I mean, you know, they were like, "Oh, where are you from?" and stuff like that. And I mean, my adoptive parents, pretty much installed into me that I wasn't like from Quebec or like I was born somewhere else. So I always had in my head that indication that I was like from somewhere else. And they always gave me like little hints to, for example, when I was growing up, I had this big poster of Machu Picchu, which is like a famous archaeological site in Peru, hanging up in my room. And my grandmother on my mom's side gave me a few books just about like the Incas and stuff like that. So it was always kind of just there, but I never was really into, you know, like going back and things like that until I was older. And yeah. And then when I got to be a teenager, so in 6, 7, secondary 3 in high school, I started to, you know, you hang out with people, you get influenced by your friends and stuff like that. And I took Spanish classes for I think 2 or 3 months with a friend and I didn't get far at all because it was so new and stuff, and not like once a week, an hour, so it's not that long. And that winter, I know my mom and my sister, they went to the States to see my mom's side of the family. And I decided, I don't remember why. I think it was kind of because I was listening to like hip hop music, which I still do listen to, but I think it was because I was listening to an artist. I don't know if you know like Immortal Technique.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's
He loves
Peruvian,
Immortal
right?
Technique, this guy.
So he's Peruvian.
Peruvian, yeah.
So like from that influence of him just being Peruvian and everything, I think I like put two and two together, and I'm like, you know what? I want to go down to Peru and like see where I'm from and everything like that. So that Christmas with my dad, my adoptive father, I went down to Peru for the first time for 2 weeks, I think 10, 14 days. And I went to school there to learn a bit of Spanish, which was really hard. And I didn't take anything from it because it's just so like everything was really new, I think. And I stayed with a Peruvian family in Cusco, Peru, in the mountains, and that was really nice too. I got sick a few times from the altitude.
I just got back from Peru. So
Oh, you did?
Talk about it, Steve.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I walked into a really deep conversation. I
Yeah.
had a really bad time, and I apologize for
No
that.
worries.
Tech is here, ladies
Yeah,
and
I'm here,
gentlemen.
I'm here, I'm
Adrian,
here.
Now you know how
Yeah.
I feel every time I would show up 10 minutes late.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing, I guess, to do this interview when you just got back.
Like
from
you
that.
mentioned Peru, like going back.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just recently
Yeah.
came back from Peru. Got to visit Machu Picchu.
Oh, cool.
Got the altitude sickness.
Yeah.
Had to chew the cocoa leaves. and
Exactly.
Did you
everything.
bring me any back?
I still have some.
Nice.
My man, you didn't bring them today though.
No, I forgot to bring it.
This guy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But out of that experience, I know there's plenty of things
Yeah.
that you love about
Yeah,
Peru,
yeah.
but what's like the things that really stand out to you?
Me, for sure, the culture. Like we have such a rich culture of, the Incas and going back. And as you see in like Machu Picchu, like how did they know like where to build and like when the sun was gonna come at like one certain point? And I think it's safe to say that they were like one of the first engineers.
100%. Yeah, they were like master mathematicians. as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible actually. With like
Them.
considering the technology that we don't really know what kind of technology they had, but they must have had something.
Right. That's it. Like them, and then two the Egyptians, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, that and definitely the food.
Did you eat any cuy?
I have not, and I don't know. Like I'm
Cuy
not
is
sure.
delicious.
Is it?
It's so good, man.
I should maybe try
It's
it.
like roast pork. It's like
Educate
Yeah,
the
yeah.
masses. What are we talking about here?
It's guinea pig.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I should maybe try.
I think you
it.
commented on it.
It's
no?
a no for me.
I think you commented. Did you comment?
Yeah, I did comment on it.
Wow, you fry it up in some oil. What more
No,
you
you
want
cook
than
it 45 minutes in the
Like an oven.
oven,
Oh,
so
okay.
it gets nice and crispy, and it's so good.
that? I like
Is
fried
it?
food.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
I've
Alpaca was
been
good.
so many times. I've never tried cuy, but alpaca I have had.
Alpaca was good.
I've tried it once in Cusco when like I'm sure you had this dish like lomo saltado.
It was like a lomo.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's pretty much like I guess red meat you would say
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So I didn't really notice a difference. So that was good. That's like my favorite dish actually.
Does it taste like goat? Because I feel like they're in the same family, right?
No, alpaca, honestly, to me, it just tastes like beef.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
It
yeah,
tastes like
yeah.
beef.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
goat kind of tastes similar to beef.
And they had a nice chimichurri sauce on it. So,
Oh, nice,
it
nice,
was,
nice,
it was
nice.
beautiful. Ceviche was good, but I'm used to ceviche with a lot of shrimp and everything.
Okay.
Peruvian ceviche is like a lot of pieces of fish. Like,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit, and let's say the other ones, they have like tomato, they have this.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
This was a little straightforward. Just like
Yeah,
some
true.
onions, fish,
Lime juice.
lime juice, and I think that's about
Yeah.
it. With cilantro.
So you was down
Yeah,
there with fish
cilantro.
breath for 2 weeks, bro?
No, I ate ceviche once actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I
In
ate a
Lima
lot of
or in
fish.
Cusco?
In Lima.
Okay, yeah,
Lima.
better there on the
Cusco
coast.
is you're not really
Yeah,
around
that's
fish.
That's it. Yeah, so the first time I went to Cusco was so cool and things, and then like now I haven't been back in 6 years, but even back then it was so popular and touristic. But when in 2006 or 7, I forget which year I went, it was so not touristic and things were so much cheaper, and there was maybe 4 people, like 5-6 people in Machu Picchu and things like that. And I know now because I've seen online like there's some places you can't go because it's like reserved and things, but back then like you could go anywhere, so it's super cool. So it's changed a bit, but in good ways, right? For like tourism and things like that. So that was my first trip, staying with a Cusqueño family. I'm still in contact with them. From time to time, I'll like text the son who's around my age. I'm in my early 30s, and we talk sometimes. And then came back, went to school, continued school. And then after high school, I took like a gap year and I went to Peru again and Chile too. And I stayed there for 2 weeks in Peru, but like alone with like no parent, I guess you would say. But I stayed with my teacher's father, because I had a teacher in high school who her dad lived in Lima. So she's like, "Oh, you're going down, you can stay with my dad, like no problem, he'll take care of you and everything." So I stayed with him, Mr. Peterson, and he just brought me on tours all over like the city and stuff like that. So I was really grateful that I had like somebody to show me around and stuff, and also to just to be there for me as a support system later on. Because later times when I went down, I got like sick or in situations where I was like, what do I do? So I felt like really loved and just, like I said, a support system. And I also went to school there to learn Spanish that year too, in 2009 and 10 in a language school to like learn Spanish. So I would stay with a host family or by myself in an apartment. And I would go to school like half the day specifically to learn Spanish, because I felt it was really important for me to learn Spanish growing up. Well, I guess when I was more a young adult, because when I don't think when I was 6 or 7 it really was something important or on my mind, but later on it became really important for me.
Yeah, just for the cultural identity and things of that nature, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So the whole being adopted and everything, at what point in your life did you like start, like when did your parents let you know that you were adopted from Peru?
That's it. Like I think it was always kind of just installed into like not the family system or the family dynamics, you would say, because I mean, I don't look like them, and I actually have an adopted sister from China too. So we're like, I'm from Peru, and my sister's from China, my mom's from the States, my dad's actually the only like Quebecois or Canadian. So that was that and stuff. And I mean, I can't really remember when they told me that specific time, like you're adopted and things, because I think too, since my family knew everybody in the village where I'm from and things, they're like, oh, like, so you're their son from Peru and this and that. So it's kind of just ingrained in me, because I always try to think of a memory of that I had that maybe they told me, but I think it was just always like frequently during my
Let me ask you a question on that. I'm actually adopted too. So
cool.
From one adopted person to another, I guess you could say. Like for me personally, right? I always kind of had this sense of like not really knowing, specifically where I came from.
Yeah.
And I just wanted I've never really asked somebody else this, but like, did you find yourself growing up sort of with, I guess you could say, sort of like a void that you couldn't really put your finger on?
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
couldn't like explain it when I was younger. It's like 6, 7, 8, 10 even. But like later on when we're young adults, you like kind of start to, I guess, put pieces together little by little and things like that. And even like, I mean, the pandemic was really hard on all of us, but at the same time too, I started to put like little things together. Oh, maybe I'm this way because of adoption and things like that. And I was like, wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, for me, like it never was something that I harped on growing up. It was never like a thing that, honestly, even to this day, it's not something I really ever think about. Yeah. Unless it comes up, right? Yeah. But I found myself in every relationship that I was with a female, they would be like, well, like, don't you want to like go find your birth parents? And I'm like, not really. Like, it's not really something I would care to do even now. Yeah. But definitely like I said, I always kind of had this sort of something inside of me that I couldn't quite put my finger on, you know what I mean? For sure. As I got older, listen, I've tried to fill it with drugs, I've tried to fill it with music, I've tried to fill it with training, anything that you could use to fill the hole, I tried to you fill the hole with. And then now that I have kids of my own and I finally have that biological relationship with somebody for the first time in my life, that's kind of what kicked it in for me and made me realize that that's what it was this whole time, Yeah. So it's kind of profound, man. Look at me, I'm getting deep on today's episode. I'm coming in strong, Steve. But yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's probably something that like every adopted person probably deals with at some point in their life. Yeah.
They do. I'm in so many adoptive groups, and it always comes up like just identity to your culture, just like adoption trauma in general, which there's like so many great posts now, or I guess pages and groups now, where like, you know, I'm actually in one of them for like just adoptees of South America, which they have a Zoom every month. But then we have like one specifically for Peruvians, and they have a Zoom call every month with adoptees like in the States, in Europe, and whatever. And they just talk about, you know, like what they're going through, what they feel, and things like that. And it's really open, so it's really nice. I used to go more often. I haven't been that frequent in the Zooms, but still they're there, so it's really nice. But yeah, I know, like to be honest, I think for sure that I know that like I have trauma with like being like abandoned,
right? And
then like just also too of I guess you would say like not like anger, but just a bit of like resentment for
sure,
stuff. And
for sure.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like subconscious too on a
exactly.
level, right? Yeah, for sure. I realized like looking back at past relationships too, especially when I was like much younger, I was clingy to it too. Like girls that I was with, I was very clingy, and I realized that's exactly what it was. It was like the abandonment thing.
Exactly.
And it's like, you know, I would just cling to these girls, these poor girls. You know what I mean? And like you add that with just like young man insecurity, and it's just
exactly
recipe for toxic relationships.
Yeah, but that's like a trauma response, you know? Like
just, you know, listen, you know me well enough to know that the way I grew up and the way that I am, we don't talk like that. There's no trauma response. You know what I mean? You're just like, to me, unfortunately, the way I grew up, we just looked at it as weakness. So you just kept all that shit inside, and you just dealt with it. You know what I mean? So the world has changed for the better, you know, luckily.
In a way, for sure. And I think it's like in the past, like 4 years or something, maybe.
Yeah, it's become a lot more progressive for sure.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, like, did your adoptive parents ever keep you from meeting your biological parents?
No, because I like didn't like ever, that question of like, oh, like, would you want to meet them and things, like never came to my head. And like, I don't even know if it ever would have. But then I went to Peru like for the second time, but the first time alone. And I came back to Montreal, and I was living in the city at the time, and I was going to school at Dawson, and I just was like, it was on my mind, like Peru was on my mind and things. So I was like, hey, like because I saw poverty there and stuff.
Real poverty.
Yeah, real poverty. So it's like, I would like to do something about it, or just like get involved in an organization or something. So I called the consulate, and I'm like, hey, like, do you know any leads of any organizations or anything? And they're like, yeah, sure, come by, and like we'll give you some papers and things like that. I don't know why I just didn't look on Google and like stick with Google, but this like was, I guess, in a way like a life-changing moment, which kind of like till now is still a blur of how things went down, because I went to the consulate and the guy gave me the information on a program or like an agency that was helping people over there. And then he's like, hey, by the way, like, are you adopted? Just straight up, he's like, are you adopted? And I said, yeah. Like, why? Like, why? What is it to you, kind of? And he said that, oh, well, do you want to know like your biological parents? Like, do you want to see like a picture of them? And I was just like really caught off guard. And
yeah, no kidding. That's like kind of disarming.
Yeah. So I was like no time to think, nothing. So it's like, sure. And he's like, okay, give me your driver's ID or whatever. So I did. And then 2 seconds later, he's looking in the computer, like typing up whatever, like not even 5 minutes later. And he's like, look, here, this is your like biological mom. That's and crazy. Then he's like, type more. And he's like, look, here's your biological father. And then the next question, he's like, do you want to call them?
That's crazy.
And I was like, okay. So he called them, and somebody answered, and it was my cousin. And my cousin answered, and he was my Spanish at the time too was really not great. So he was like, yeah, I'm with so and so's son, like we're looking for her, and like, do you know where she is, or do you know how we can contact her? And they're like, no, sorry, we don't know where she is, but we'll pass on the message in case like we find her or whatever. Yeah. So that's how the call went. And I think after that, the guy at the consulate was trying to explain to me like what just happened and everything. And he's like, but here's the number of where to like which we just called, that was in like in the system from my biological mom. So I think 3 or 4 times during that week I tried to just call and be like, hey, like, have you found anything out, or like, hey, what's going on? But I think too, like, since the language barrier, I just didn't understand that they were saying like no and whatever, we're working on it and things like that. But then I think a week or 2 passed by, and it was this Sunday. I was at my parents' house up north, and I got this call from a weird number, and I was like, who's this? And it ended up being my biological mom calling me, and she's just like, hola, ¿cómo estás? And I was like, hola. And like, I tried my best, I think, to speak the best Spanish as I could at the time. And we spoke, I think, for 5 minutes. And I don't really remember the conversation. But then after that, she would call me every Sunday.
Really?
Yeah. Just to check up. And then after that, I'm like, okay, well, I think it's time for me to go meet her in person.
Yeah.
So after, I think 8 months or maybe a year, I'm not really sure, I went back to Peru to meet her. And I went back to meet her, and my adoptive parents were like, well, do you want us to come with you? Like, do you want one of us there? And I said, no, like, I want to do this alone. It's like my thing. And I think it was not like because I didn't want them there and stuff like that. It was just, I wanted to do this alone for me because it was like a me thing.
Right.
And just, I wanted to, I think, prove to myself that like I could do this, and that like, you know, like I can, it's my journey, my story. And I mean, like, by all means, I love help and everything. It's just, it's something I wanted to do for myself.
There are some things you do have to do for yourself, though, you know, as a man or just as an adult, period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I, like I said earlier, I had people in place there, which I knew if anything happened that they could help me. And they actually brought me there because they were like, the man I was staying with there, he had a driver and everything. So there, he was like in a good, I guess, he lived in a good place in Lima, in the capital, and he also had like resources which he could afford, so he had a driver. So the driver drove me for the first time to my biological mom's house, which was way, like, really far from where he was staying. Yeah.
How was that first meeting when you
The
saw her in person?
first meeting was in the airport because I forgot to say this, but like after I found out all the things from the consulate, I went back to my adoptive parents' house, and I was just really off that weekend. And they sat me down, and for like, I guess, an intervention, you would say, and they were just like, "What's going on? Like, why are you a bit off? Like, what's happening? Are you like taking drugs, or did somebody like say something to you? Like, are you, I don't know, a bunch of crazy things, you know?" And the like parents, and then I just kept saying like, no. And then my dad got it out of me kind of, and he's just like, oh, is it something to do with your like adoption and everything like that? And I couldn't say like yes, like a firm yes or a firm no. I just nodded my head and began to cry. And he's like, oh, well, like, you know, we're really open with this, and you know, we have pictures of your biological parents. It's just we never, like, we were waiting for the right moment for you to be old enough to like understand it and things like that. And then they like went, like 2 minutes later they went and they got them, and they showed me these pictures. And like, of course too, I had like the image in my head of like my biological mom. So like I just put 2 and 2 together. And then when I went back to Peru a year later, a month later, I kind of had an idea of what she looked like and everything, and her hair and stuff, because her hair's like really dark and just long and things. So when I got to the airport, I got there and they were there to greet me, and right away, like, I kind of just like went towards them. And I remember her after that, like I gave her a hug, and she just was like, how did you know that was me right away? And I'm like, oh, through pictures, you know. So they came to pick me up at the airport, but I was so tired and just so overwhelmed. So the next day I went to their house, and that was when me and my biological mom, we had that talk of like why I was adopted. Right. And just, she asked for forgiveness and stuff like that. And, you know, I mean, I'm not a person really to hold anger, like, for a long time. So, you know, like I forgave her, and I understood too, because even till this day, like where they live in Lima is in poverty. So, you know, like I kind of was like, I understand.
You get it.
She wanted the best for you.
Get it.
Exactly. Yeah. I get it.
You know, it's got to be one of the hardest things for a woman to do ever, really, because you carry that baby for 9 months.
Yeah.
And, you know, regardless, I mean, listen, I have 2 kids of my own, so I watched my baby mother's 2 pregnancies, and you see how they become bonded with the child before it's ever born. You know what I mean? So it's got to be the hardest thing that a person could ever do, to give up a child. So what I'm trying to say is, like, you know, even for me, if I ever were to meet I've already forgiven them. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I know that nobody gives up a baby because they want to. You know what I mean? It's not, I just want to get rid of this thing. It's not what it is. There's ulterior motives behind it, right? Yeah. But I want to circle back to kind of that first moment when you first laid eyes on her in person, right? Like, what are you feeling during that moment? What are the emotions?
I think the emotions I had were probably a sense of, like, maybe belonging.
Wow.
A sense of, in a way, like, love, because it's like my flesh and blood.
Exactly.
For the first time. Yeah. And I think, like, maybe just, I think those 2 things for sure, and maybe too, just that I'm home, because even till now, when I go to Peru, I always feel like I'm going home. I always feel like these are my people. This is like home for me, and I call it home, like, because it is, you know. And I've been so many times, like more than 5 times. So it just, when I'm there now, I feel like another citizen and just a normal Peruvian.
It's in your DNA, you know, and there is a lot to be said for, like, the way you're brought up does have a lot to do with kind of your socialization. I'm forgetting the word, but there's a certain amount of the person you become that's based on your surroundings. Yeah. But there is also that certain amount that's just genetically inside of you, right? Yeah. So it's like, for sure, you're going to feel at home when you go there. For sure, when you first lay eyes on your birth mother, you're going to feel those feelings, because it's ingrained in your DNA. It's in your blood, literally, at this point, you know? Yeah. That's fascinating, bro.
I was going to ask, like, before you guys were talking about how you feel like there's that void in you, because you just feel like there's something missing. When you met her, did you feel like it was completed, like you found what you were missing?
I think maybe, like, I found, like, a sense, like I said, of belonging. And I don't think, like, that void ever really leaves, because it's like your story, of course, and you meet them and things, but then still, like, I know a lot of adoptees, they feel this, like, even when they meet their parents, like, they still feel that void of, like, being taken and things like that, or, you know, like, put, like, up for adoption. Which, I mean, I don't, like we said, I'm not, like, an angry person or anything, so I've forgiven, but I still know that, like, that void is still there a bit, because I still do get those thoughts of sometimes, like, oh, like, I wish, like, I lived there, and, you know, stuff like that, and but then, hey, too, like, I have a great life in Canada, and I mean, I'm a dual citizenship thanks to my mom, you know, and so, and, like, we'll have to also look at the positives too in life of living here and my situation here, and just be grateful of both things. And I have the opportunity to always go back and always help, and, you know, do stuff for the Peruvian community here too, and in Montreal, because it's pretty big.
Is it really?
Yeah. Wow. There's, like, a Peruvian festival every summer. There's true. Like, maybe there's definitely over 10 Peruvian restaurants in Montreal. There's always, like, one new one opening up every month, I feel. So it's really crazy now.
Yeah, that's fire.
Yeah.
Like you said about the void. There's a void inside you. It's more than 20 years that you weren't in contact with your family, right? So that right there, that's 20 years of history.
Yeah.
Even when you see them, at the end of the day, like, when you get to meet your mom and you get to see your mom, you're going back home at the end. Yeah. They're going with their family,
exactly.
Right? So I can already see what you would be feeling.
Yeah. Because I do remember that first plane ride back after meeting them, after spending some time with them and stuff like that, meeting my brother, my younger brother, and meeting my older sister, which I knew I had a sister because I had pictures with her from when I was adopted, because she was a bit older, so
that's what there. I wonder about the most.
But then like my younger brother, like, I had no idea I had a younger brother, and I was like, oh, like, and they're all from the same father. So I do remember going back that time back to Canada, I think, or to the States maybe, that I like cried like half of the plane ride home, you know?
For sure.
Yeah. And even after like the consulate and everything, that I went back to my apartment and I was just like, you know, in tears, because it was just like, of course, emotional, but then of course, because I didn't go there for that information.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like so much bigger.
It was like random almost.
Random.
It's weird the way life works, bro. And it's also, you're dealing with like, you're coming down off of all those emotions too.
Exactly.
Like, you just felt so much emotion within like such a short span of time that when you finally get that moment to yourself, it's just like,
it all
decompress
comes out, you know,
exactly.
And yeah, that's it. And even till this day, like I've been back to the consulate because I'm trying to get my citizenship for there. It's just taking long because of things. But I'm like, who was that guy? Like, do you remember his name? Because I don't remember his name. And in a way, I kind of feel that like he was just somebody that the universe put in place for me in my story, and
to cross paths with you.
Exactly.
I would think so.
And I just was like, was he? And sometimes it's just like, was he even real? Like, did that? You know? But of course he was. It's just, I'm like, wow, like that's crazy. Like
that's an insane story, man.
Yeah,
it really is.
Because I do know that a lot of adoptees, Peruvian or like whatever, they like hire investigators and private whatever, and like they look for years or months or whatever. And like for me, it took like, thank the universe.
You weren't even looking.
Exactly, and it took 5-10 minutes, like not even an hour. So it's just like, wow.
I was gonna ask you, Tech, have you ever tried looking for your parents?
No, for me, you know what? I've had a pretty good life. I consider my current parents my real parents. That's all I've ever known. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just kind of, it's a 2-factor thing for me. Number one is, you know, I don't necessarily want to fix something that's not broken necessarily. And 2, I just don't feel like, you know, I don't know. And my parents have both encouraged me if I ever wanted to do it to go ahead and do so. But I just always kind of felt like it would be a bit of a slap in the face to them. Yeah. You know, because they raised me. They, you know, I am who I am because of them. You know what I mean? Of course, there's always those questions, like I said before, of do I have siblings? You know, I would like to see my birth dad just to fucking, you know, you could have let me keep my hair a little bit longer, guy. You know, but aside from that, no, you know, it's a question that lingers in the back of my mind. But
no, do your parents know who they are? Like, were they given that information?
So the way that it works in Canada, at least back in the 80s, is once you put a child up for adoption, they go to, I guess, an agency or whatever, however it works, and you're pretty much not allowed to give the name. Like, it's the parents who are giving up the child sign a form basically saying that you know, we're not allowed to give your information to the parents or the child or stuff like that. So I have a letter from my birth mom, just, you know, giving me the whole story of why and whatever, and kind of like, you know, we're from this part of the world and but aside from that, no, I don't know nothing really, and I don't really, it doesn't, you know, like I said, the void is there. It always has been. I never knew what it was until I was old enough to figure it out. But no, I never tried, and at this point I'm not really interested in trying.
Because I think too, for me, if I wanted to look now, and I don't know if I would still be interested in too, because like you said, like we're older now, and like, yes, like it would be nice to meet them and see like all these things of maybe like why, like health wise and stuff like that. But at the same time too, is like, we don't need them, you know,
you could do 23andMe and figure it all out.
And like, we don't like need them in the sense of we're older now. We're not kids. Like, we're not, yes, we're looking for love and acceptance from them, but at the same time too, we're like,
they're living your own life, man.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean? You can't dwell on the past.
Exactly.
In your circumstance, in your situation, like, at least you knew that you were malnourished as a kid. You were taken out of an environment that, who knows, maybe you wouldn't have survived.
I know.
So the fact that you moved to Canada, you got raised in a great household. It looks like you're doing well for yourself.
Thanks.
And now you're giving back to the community. So that's like
it's always been like a big thing for me, like community work and things like that. And I mean, when I was in high school, me and my sister and my family, we gave back, we like raised money and we gave like back to Sierra Leone, I think.
Oh wow.
And we got like our school involved and everything like that. And then later on, like in Peru, I've been involved in some agencies there, I guess, like organizations there that they go to in places in Lima, and they like do like chocolatadas, which are around Christmas, and that's for like, you know, they have like hot chocolate and gifts for the kids and stuff like that. And I love, like, I always have to do something or try to do something like that when I'm there, just because like I'm thankful for just everything, and just it brings me like a sense of peace and a sense of maybe just
it's fulfilling.
Yeah, fulfillment. And it's always like super interesting because of course there are the people who are organizing it and everything, like they're Peruvian, but then too, I actually went there in 2014 and I stayed for a few months. And no, like I think I stayed for like 4 or 5 months, and I went over all over Peru. But for 2 of those weeks, I was doing volunteer work and teaching kids English in like a very poverty community in Lima. And I remember the kids, like, they'd be like all these, you know, like people from North America, which are like white and things like that, and they're coming to teach them. But then there's me, who's like, it looks exactly almost like them, and they're like, mira, like, parece a nosotros, like, look, he looks like us, and stuff like that. And like, yes, like I do, but I also like took pride in that, because I'm like, you know, like I came from I came from kind of the same, not the same situation as you guys, but just I understand you guys.
I identify with you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure, more than, you know, some Blanco from
exactly
New Hampshire. You know,
exactly.
Like, it is what it is.
Yeah,
guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So like I always took, you know, a lot of pride in that, and I still do.
And when did you helped build a school, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, that was in 2000. Was that the same year? It was the same year. I'm trying to think. I helped build a school in Cusco with another organization, because my mom actually, my adoptive mom actually came down because she hadn't been to Peru in, I think, like 20 years, or since I was adopted. So she came down because she's like, I want to go back, like I want to see you, but then also too, like I want to see how the country's progressed and everything. So we went to Cusco, and I had been staying there, I think, for a week or 2 before her, or I don't remember. And because I have lived in Cusco before, and we did volunteering for 2 weeks. She taught English this time, and I was with a work staff or whatever, and we built the school from, like, you know, like mud bricks and everything, doing the cement. And, you know, there they don't have like the machine to help you mix or whatever. You're doing it like by hand, like all day and everything. So we just built the foundation was there of the school, and what happens was every group that came in, they'd build a bit more, and then, I mean, the school was still functional, but we just like added on more. I haven't been back to that site, but I'm pretty sure it's probably like really big by now. And we did that. And what else did I do then too? Yes, I did that. And then I helped people in that community too later on, 2 years ago. Well, last Christmas, not the Christmas that just happened, but the year before. I was just in mode, I guess the mode I was in and stuff, in headspace I was in, was that like I found out more things about like my adoption and my adoptee family, my biological family, sorry. So I wanted to get more involved again in helping people over there. So I contacted some people who had an organization there, one of my friends, Tiffany, and I was like, hey, Tiff, I'm looking for something to take part of, to raise money for, and to like hopefully go there and like help these girls. And she's like, oh, I have just the right person for you. There's this guy I know who, he owns a few bars in Cusco, but he also he's like the director or whatever of this school in the Sacred Valley, which is like an all-woman school for like, they board there. So they're from like little communities, and they go to that school for like, of course, school, but then to board and learn just life skills of how to cook, how to clean, and how to take part of society, because like their families, they have either just gone to school for 2 years or whatever and then stopped. So I've been a big person in that organization of helping raise money for those children and things like that. And they've sent me cookbooks and things like that to give to people who like have given donations. And then also too, that's I guess where I started my own foundation for adoptees. South American adoptees to learn Spanish, because what I noticed when I got into the adoptee world in 2022 and in the fall, I noticed that a lot of adoptees, the reason why they didn't go back to Peru or to Chile or to Colombia was because they didn't know the language, they weren't familiar with the culture. And I understand that, but then at the same time, they're all in the States. So I'm like, why don't like you know Spanish? You know, like here, like French is, we have to learn French and things like that. So it's just like, okay, like I understand, but at the same time too, like I kind of, in a way, I got the same response. I don't know the language. I don't know the culture. I don't know the language. And I kind of just got annoyed of it. And I'm like, I need to do something about it, because it's getting them nowhere in a way. And, you know, we can't just keep using that as a reason not to go back. So I started collecting my resources of teachers which I used to have, which taught me Spanish back when I was in the language school in Lima. And I was like, hey, look, I have this great idea to do Spanish classes online, because still like we were kind of still in the pandemic. So it's like, well, let's do like online Spanish classes, but to cater only to adoptee people for now, because I talked to a lot of them and they said like I would want to do Spanish classes, but at the same time too, like I feel more comfortable if it's all people who are adopted, because they all like, we understand each other.
We're going through the same struggle. Yeah.
Exactly. Because, you know, like there could be, which is fine too, you know, of just taking some whatever Spanish class, but at the same time too, you know, if you're just in some Spanish class at whatever CJEPT or and stuff, you're like, well, why? What are your reasons here? Well, me is because like I want to get close to my culture and things. And then, you know, Steve over there, he just wants to watch Narcos without subtitles. Yeah, exactly.
You know like it's
exactly.
It's a different vibe. Ain't that right, Steve?
Look, for me, when it comes to the Spanish language, I fucking love it.
Yeah,
we know.
I love it, and I feel like just getting in there with the people, you know, you're talking, learning about the culture. Your Spanish gets better every day.
Yeah.
It gets better every day.
Yeah, definitely.
And like you said, like it's important that you do go to school for this. Because regardless how good you can speak in a conversation, you're not going to know all the words. So you got to go to school.
You went to school first, Steve?
No, I got to go to school.
But no, that's it. Like I went to school for I think 2 or 3 months. And even then in 2010, my Spanish was still not great. And I mean, I even skipped class sometimes to like go hang out with a girl who I like met in the market, and like, hey, like, yeah. And like, but then too, like we would go to like the beach, or like, you know, she'd show me around. So at the same time too, it was not like, oh yeah, we're just going to the restaurant to eat. It was like, no, you're showing me around, you're showing me the culture. And I think then too is when after later on, I think after 2014, I really got that's when I noticed improvement in my Spanish and everything. And like still to this day, I mean, there's still a bit of Spanish I need to learn, like a few words, but at the same time too, like my Spanish is perfectly fluent. I speak in Spanish every day.
Nice.
And I still talk to my friends there pretty often that I've made, and you know, like my Spanish is definitely not as broken as it used to be. Of course, I'll still always have a strange accent because I learned Spanish when I was 18 years old, but hey, like I can't do anything about that. It's just my life circumstances.
I mean, it's your second language, you know what I mean? So it's
third language.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I mean, hey, we're all like, French is my second.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, French is my second language, and I'm very fluent in it. But there's still times where, especially if I'm nervous or you know, I'm looking for my words. It's
exactly
normal. Your brain doesn't function the same way when you use a different language. It's literally like a switch, right? So
that's it.
It's normal. You know?
Yeah. So it's like my third language and stuff. And I mean, I love it. You know, I love like what Steve was saying. Like I just love learning about my culture and stuff like that. And I think too that even if I didn't find like my biological family and was in communication and in contact with them, it wouldn't change really of like my love I feel for Peru and everything, because that love like for the country, for the culture, for everything came before I like got in contact with them, and that will always stay with me. And I mean, I'm a big soccer fan for the national team, and like I watch their games all the time. I don't think I've ever missed one since like 2015.
Dedication, bro.
Yeah. But I mean, it's, I guess, the culture too there and everything. And
For sure.
it honestly, like, watching them, and yeah, of course they lost at the beginning, and then after that they got better. And I mean, with my friends here who are Peruvian, like, there's just something that connects soccer and us, where like we have a big passion for it, and it's like unexplainable. And like, you know, we've cried because somebody got hurt or some situation, or lost a game or won a game, and like, it's unexplainable, I guess.
That's part of the culture.
Yeah.
But I could get that feeling. Like, it's definitely, I'm definitely nowhere close to in the same boat as you, but like when I went to Italy for the first time, like that's where like my grandparents are from, so that's where my roots are from, and like just being there, like you feel this sense of belonging. You feel like, okay, this is like where I'm supposed to be. So I could just imagine like not only meeting your family but going back to where you're from, like that feeling. It must be like overwhelming as well, right?
Yeah, at the beginning it definitely was overwhelming, but then now, like, I know the last time I went back in 2018, I'm just like, hey, like, what's up? Like, how's it going? Like, I feel I belong and stuff like that. Of course, they're like, oh, your Spanish is like, you have a strange accent, and I'm not like scared to be like, yeah, like, it's because I'm adopted, but I'm Peruvian or anything like that. And they're like, oh, okay, like, I understand now. But no, like, I feel like a normal citizen when I go there now. And I mean, I think that's in a way maybe for an adoptee when they go back to their homeland or where they're from, that's like the goal, to kind of feel like you fit in. So I think that in my journey of just being an adoptee, I think I've kind of done a first full circle moment, or just I've put the pieces together pretty well for myself.
That's pretty amazing, man. It's real nice to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, like we said, there's always going to be little voids and things like that, but I can't change some of those things. But the things I have changed, or the things I have worked towards, like, they definitely help, and they definitely they just help my story, and just help me in general, of a sense of belonging and a sense of just community, for sure.
I don't know if the people in the program, everybody shares their story of basically.
Some do, but not really, because it's like private, you know. But I mean, like, I spoke to them right now. It's like on pause because I'm just in like reconstruction and everything. But I mean, one-on-one, I would speak to them pretty often, like a good amount of them, and be like, hey, like, what's up? Like, where are you in your journey? What are you trying to do? Like, what are you trying to get out of this? And, you know, like, you know, I have resources. Don't be shy to ever contact me if you want anything, like you're looking for something, or you need something, whatever. Because, like, for example, like, I'll give you an example. I guess, you know, some of them, they're so I guess maybe not in, I don't know the right words, but just, you know, just to cook Peruvian food, or just to cook wherever they're from's food is a big deal for them. You know, it's a big step for them. Or even just to take a Spanish class is a big step for them, you know?
I have a few friends that are adopted as well. And some of them that I've heard this story from other people, not just them too. Like, when they get to meet their adoptive parents for the first time, their biological parents for the first time, some don't have like a positive meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can tell that. Like, right now, I just met them, and already they're asking me for money and stuff.
Yeah.
That's more deadbeat dads, though.
I hear.
But no, like, honestly, too, like, with my story too, like, even, yes, like, I met them and it was nice and things, but then too, like, my biological mom, like, she's really like tough love and everything, and doesn't really put her emotions on her sleeves. So it was really hard to create a connection with them. Even like my sister, my biological sister, I mean, you know, I'd go to their place and stay sometimes the night and everything, and I'm fine with this, you know, but we would just watch TV and things, which is fine because I understood their economical situation. But even sometimes it'd be like, hey, like, let's go to the park, or like, hey, let's go out for dinner or lunch or whatever. I'm paying, like, don't worry about it. And they'd be like, no, and like, no, we don't want to go. And I'm not sure if it was because they just didn't want to me to like pay and stuff like that, and they felt bad about it, or they honestly just they didn't want connection.
Could be a matter of pride too as well.
Yeah,
sometimes when you're in that predicament financially, it's hard to accept help. Not even help, but just they look at it as maybe like a handout or something. It could be
that's it. But yes, like I mean, even till this day, I mean, unfortunately, I'm not as connected with my biological mom. And we haven't been that connected. Like the last time I went to Peru, I didn't even see them because of what you just said, pretty much, like a story like that. And like for sure, sometimes when I'd go and I had $20 in my pocket, I'd be like, well, I don't need this, like here you go, like take it, like I don't need it. But I mean, like if there was ever anything of like every 2 weeks or like monthly, like here you go, like here's some money, like no, never. I just give like when I felt I wanted to, or when it was right, when I was there. And I guess maybe that didn't play well in like my favor, because later on, like in 2018, before I went, that kind of happened over like over social networks, and then they kind of were just like, well, you know what, like you're not gonna help us, so like goodbye, kind of.
Wow.
And like I mean, it was a really tough conversation, because then too what happened was that my mom, like my biological mom, stopped calling me every Sunday after we first met, which was perfectly fine. Like how long can you do that for? And even back in 2010 when I met her, we didn't really have Facebook calls and like WhatsApp app and all these things. So it was just literally she'd go to the locale to like call and like international calling or whatever. So it was harder then. And so that I was fine with, but just I guess maybe I'm not even sure if she just didn't want to keep in contact, because she's like, you live your life, I'll live mine. But I kind of feel that she maybe could have done a better job of just being in communication, because then later, like we didn't communicate for almost a year. And the reason why was because when I would try to call her, the cell phone like didn't it wasn't on.
It wasn't connected,
and it wasn't connected. And I was like, hey, like what the hell's going on, like what's going on? And I'd ask my biological sister, like over a chat, hey, like what's going on, like why isn't the cell picking up, it's just going straight to voicemail. And she's like, oh, I think it's because at home the cell signal's not reaching there. And I was like, okay, but like I'd try to call once in a blue moon, and I would try to call from time to time, and it was always the same story at any time of the day. So it's like, what the hell is really going on? And then I spoke to a prima, a cousin there, and I was like, hey, like do you know anything about so and so and stuff and what's going on? And I'm like, I've been trying to reach her for a while and nothing's working. And I'm like, I have this number, like do you have a number for her? And she's like, yes, I have a number, here you go. And it was like a new number. So I was like, well, like what the hell, like why didn't you give me the new number?
Like, call me with your new number, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, well, like what the hell, like what, I have to refine you again, kind of. And like so then I texted her, and she finally had like WhatsApp app, which they use a lot there. And I was like, hey, like how's it going, like what's up, why what's been going on, like why didn't you give me your new number and things? And I don't remember what she said, but then too I kind of felt like I was looking again for them and stuff. And we spoke a few times, and then it was my birthday in August, and then I knew I was going to Peru that fall. And then closer to the date I was going, like I think a month or two before, she was just like, hey, by the way, like do you want, like I kind of need some help financially for the house, we're trying to make it bigger and things, which like I didn't think was false or anything like that. But it was just like, is it the right like time to be asking when like I kind of just found you again, and just like I'm the one who's reaching out and trying to make a connection with you again, and you're asking me for money when like you barely reach out and stuff,
tough. That's tough.
I think there's a big perception within South America that you're a rich gringo and you just rake up money every day. So that's why they're gonna ask. If they can get it, they'll get it.
So that's what happened. And then like I spoke to my people, my support system there, that I still have to today, which are like, you know, just really good friends who have known me since the whole since like pretty much I found my biological family, and even just since I've stepped foot in Peru. And I was just like, oh, I feel a certain way about this, and like I don't know like what to do, like if just to say like yes, sure, and like give them the $50 or say how I feel. And they're like, no, Adrian, like I think you should say how you feel and everything. So I did, and I just like, hey, like I did it nicely and everything, but still, you know, clearly the response was not good, and you know, she didn't take it well.
Yeah, but sometimes, you know, you got to filter it out and find people's real motivations.
Exactly.
And, you know, it could be somebody close to you and it's gonna fucking hurt, but
yeah,
you know, you're better off finding out what's really going on, because at the end of the day, you know what, you found her,
yeah,
and then you had to chase her kind of again,
yeah,
and then now it's like, you know, you're hitting me up for money, and it's like, as much as I would like to help you out, I'm not Bill Gates either.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to be in, honestly.
Definitely.
I mean, especially for you having gone through all of those emotions already. Now to lead up to this is that's a tough one.
Yeah, so like, you know, I just said how I felt and was respectful about it too. I wasn't like go to hell or anything. I was just like, no, like, sorry, this time I don't think is the proper moment. Like we just started to talk again, and I don't think it's like really right on your part for you to like be asking this, like the second conversation we've had. And, you know, she just was like, oh, well, you know, like, never mind then, like, I'll never ask you again, don't worry. But then she said some things that were like really like, wow, you know. She was like, like, you know, well, you know how I live and stuff, and you have a good life, so like you should be helping me.
The guilt trips.
And the guilt trips. And I was just like, but just let's finish the conversation. And of course, like, I kept on with my day that day, and I remember exactly where I was and everything. And then like that night I definitely couldn't sleep, and I still had a lot of, I guess, like rage and emotions in me that I not wanted to explain. So the next day I sent her like a voice message of like, I think 5 minutes. I don't know if she ever actually listened to it, but you know, I was just like, I feel this and I feel that, but I think I just needed to get it out of me. So that happened in 2018, before the last time I went to Peru. And even when I was there, I didn't bother to contact them or anything. I just did my things of seeing my friends and doing touristy things and all of that. But of course, like, it was kind of strange because, you know, I'm like, well, I'm here, I should be like either seeing my family, or even I was even like worried, and I didn't even want to text really my cousins there because I have a big family there, to be like, hey, I'm here, like, do you want to meet up? I was like, I don't know if it's the right step to do, so I didn't. But I mean, my cousins now, they're just like, oh, like, you know, like, even if you're not good with your biological family and stuff, you know, like, we still would like to see you and things like that. So that was nice to hear after, but it was a bit too late because I was already back home here in Canada. But last year, I don't know why really, but just, I guess I was listening to music, some song, and also too at the work I was at the time, I was working with a lot of Spanish people, and I told them a bit of my story, and they were like, well, like, why don't you try to contact her, because we hadn't talked in 5 years. And they're like, well, why don't you try to call her, and, you know, the worst thing she'll do is either hang up or just not answer, and at least you can say you tried. So one day in last April, I tried to call, and she answered, and we had like a nice talk of like, hey, like, this is where I'm at in my life, and this is what I'm doing with the situation that I've had to live through of like being adopted, and like, I'm trying to help other adoptees like connect to their roots, but I'm also like sharing my story and things like that to get to like, just for people to be more aware of. And she's like, well, that's like really good and stuff like that. And unfortunately, I haven't talked to her like since then, but I'm at peace with that, and like, it's okay too, you know, I'm not trying to overstep my position. And I think to her, and in her eyes, maybe she's just not trying to overstep her things either, so it's okay.
There could be a lot of factors there too, you know. It's you gotta kind of, you can't give too much. You kind of, for you at least, you got the closure that you that you needed. You know what I mean? And then on her part, you know, also, you know, I like to kind of put myself in other people's shoes as well. It's kind of like, you know, you're kind of on the other side of the world, so you're not as close as you could be over telephone. You're not really necessarily physically involved in somebody's life, so it might be hard for her too to kind of have to always talk to you and then let you go, and then talk to you and then let you go, and then, you know, so sometimes it's easier to just stay away, you know? And I had to learn that too, because I mean,
since 2022, I think I like started to do therapy, and I was like, okay, yeah, like, because I had tried before, but once or twice, didn't like the therapist or whatever, like stopped. I never really got deep in it, and I decided, like, what, like, I'm kind of tired with just patterns I was doing and stuff like that. So I started to take therapy, and online, actually, over Zoom with a Spanish therapist in Peru, actually. So
Nice.
that's, like, I guess how good my Spanish is. And just one therapy session, I like put myself, like you just said, like in my biological mom's shoes of like how she was raised and things like that, and it really like gave me a sense of, okay, like I understand you.
Different perspective, man.
It's important in different people's perspective, just like in adoptee things, but just in life in general.
100%.
Yeah.
So what do you see with what do you want to see with the program in the future? How big do you want to build it?
I would love to see that people, because the goal I think will always be to like help people learn Spanish, of course online, but then also to with my school that I went to there and like learn Spanish. We started like making up arrangements of that, like if they did the school online and whatever hours, that we'd have like a trip each year or 2 year or like twice a year. So like in the fall, let's say, and then maybe in the summer or so, in the fall and the winter or whatever, twice per year or once per year, or that the adoptee could like go to whatever Peru, if they were Peruvian, and like do the Spanish in person there, but then also like learn how to cook Peruvian food and learn their culture more, but like upfront and everything. And also too, I think because I did talk to a Colombian school, which like they loved my idea, and they're like, like just let us know what we can do, and like we're on board for this idea, and like we love what you're doing, so keep it up. And so like I've made like some contacts there, but it's just really hard too because I'm here, they're there, and I haven't had the chance to go back, because definitely in person it would be a lot easier
for sure
to like coordinate logistics. So that's why like I'm kind of just trying to remodel it of just how it could work better and everything like that, because even then for just like payments and things like that, like I'm here, a lot of the students are in the States or were in the States, and then the teachers in like Peru, so it's like so hard to just
it's
those
a lot
logistics.
of transfers, bro.
Yeah, or whatever. So it's just like tough, but I mean, hey, like I'm not giving up. It's just reconstruction. And in the meantime too, I've always wanted to do this. People have always told me to do this since back in 2010, but I didn't see it as something I wanted to pursue until I think a year ago. And they're like, you should write a book about your story and everything. And that's kind of what I'm doing now, like personally, as like in the adoptee world, of just trying to write my story. It's really hard, but still that's like what I want to do, and hopefully it come out by next year or the top of this year at the end, in December or whatever. And that's like my goal.
Do you ever think of making that permanent move
to Peru?
Yeah,
it definitely has crossed my mind a lot of times. I would love to move there like permanently and stuff, but then I'd have to have like either a job that pays me in like US or Canadian or whatever, because it's what they make there like is maybe $20 a day or like a week or something sometimes. So it's like I mean, I have a friend there, and her whole like apartment and everything is not much for us, it's like 300, 200, but like for them it's so much. And
it's a lot of money.
Wow, like because I always feel like when I go back, of course, like we have better currency here, so as like we could do a lot more than them, but then at the same time too, it's tough if you're living there and stuff like, I don't know,
you need some sort of job that you can work online, still get paid.
Exactly, because I would love to live there for a good year or two, or even like half a year when it's winter here, and go there, because there it's summer when it's winter here, and just go to the beach and things and stuff. Like I guess a snowbird, but not to Florida, but to Peru. But that would be nice. But I mean, maybe one day.
Something to aspire to.
Yeah, exactly. And but yeah.
So besides the program, what else do you see yourself, like, what do you see for yourself in the future?
For myself, hopefully I would love to create a business for myself that I could definitely help others, because clearly, like, I like helping others and all that stuff. So definitely helping other adoptees, and not necessarily to reconnect with their culture or anything, but just to be like there for information and stuff like that, for like the more the mental health side. And then also too, I would definitely love to build an orphanage or like a youth center in Peru, where I was adopted from, in Huancayo. I've never been back actually, but I would love to go back, and I think it's needed there. I don't think there's a lot of organizations there that go there, so I would love to do that. But then I also see myself also giving motivational speeches, yes, like to talk about adoption, but then just in general motivational speeches, like of course like to correlate or like to go hand in hand with my story, but then also to inspire others and, you know, be the best that they can be in the world and that kind of stuff.
And I wanted to ask this before, but I forgot. Your relationship with your adoptive parents right now, did it get strained at one point for like looking for your biological parents?
Not at all, because they were so like open-minded and everything, and they're like, you know, like whatever you need, like we're here and stuff like that. So it would never like really was strained. Of course, like I'm sure they felt like a certain way of like, oh, he's abandoning us and stuff like that.
There's definitely the fear there, probably.
Of course, because like I remember even when I was there with my mom, she's just like, he's so normal here, and like he goes about his day, and like he's not, you know, he fits in so well here. Like, is he gonna like just stay there and not come back and stuff? And I definitely know that like kind of scared my mom, but I always like was reassuring of like, you know, like you're the one who raised me, like you're the one like I'm the person I am today because of you and dad, like that will never change. And like, you know, like I do know that like I like to say that my big heart, because I feel I have a big heart, and I've been told that like comes from my adoptive mom, because she also has a big heart and everything like that. So I feel like a lot of characteristic traits I have are definitely because of her. Because, you know, I didn't mention this earlier, but in 2 years ago when I was looking to get my Peruvian like identification and passport and things, and it's a big process, but I never really knew where my biological father was, because he's not in the picture. And while doing that, I was like, well, I'm not talking to my family there, so like what's the hurt in even trying to look? So I found him and stuff after I think a few phone calls and stuff like that, and I found out that he was in jail. So I found out he was in jail, and I'm like, okay, well, why? And then I contacted a friend there, and who had a lawyer friend who could get me the information freely of like why he was there. And I found out like why he was there, and it was pretty like big stuff. And I was like, you know, I felt shocked, and I was like, okay, well, what do I do with this information? And you know, it definitely for a good 2 or 3 days like dawned on me of like am I gonna be like him? Like, am I gonna do those same mistakes and stuff like that? And then I had to like snap yourself out of this. Like, you're not him. Like, yes, like we have the same blood, but like you're your own person, and you're better than this. You know, what you offer to the world is like positivity, and what you want to do like with your time on the world is like good things, not things to harm others or whatever. You know.
Well, you were brought up by two different people, not your birth parents are your birth parents. The blood running through your veins is the same blood, but at the end of the day, your upbringing is what made you as a person.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess just at that time with that information, I just had to like remind myself of that and everything, which was easier done than I thought it would be for sure. But definitely for a good day or two, I was like, you know, a lot of information to take in there too.
For sure. I mean, it's a shock to the system, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, and I mean, the next time I do go back to Peru, which hopefully would be at the end of this year, is my plan is also to go visit him in jail and things. So that will be in like another big adventure.
That's another chapter in the book, my friend.
Exactly.
Book number 2, maybe.
Exactly. You know? But yeah, that's it. Like, that's people are like, oh, I don't know if you should go, like jails are really tough there, like, oh, I don't know, and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, like I know, but it's not my reasoning of why like I want to see him is not because I want to have a relationship with him really or anything like that. I want to go just to like,
you just want to settle that with yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. You want the closure.
Exactly. That's all. Like, and just to see him with my own eyes, because I mean, I have seen him, but I was a baby. Like, I don't remember. So it's just that. And they're like, oh, well, what if he asks you for money, or what if this? And I'm like, well,
he can ask,
but I'm not gonna give. Like, I'm not, like, I know, like, to set my boundaries and things like that, and everything.
Maybe put a couple packs of noodles on the commissary.
yeah. That's it. That's it.
As far as kids, like since your parents, they're doing humanitarian stuff, adopting a daughter from China, a son from Peru.
Yeah.
Do you see something similar for yourself in the future? Or
That's
do you want to have?
Question.
That is a good question.
Yeah. That is a really good question.
Good job, Steve.
Because like, I'm not even like honestly, I'm not even sure I want kids. I don't even know, and not because I don't like kids, because I've worked at summer camps when I was younger. My family has kids and everything, and like I'm really good with kids and things like that. So it's not a situation that it's just like, do I want my own? Like, I don't know. Or do I want to just be like the cool uncle or something? But yeah.
You're the fucking weird uncle.
But
give yourself too much credit there.
But that's it. Like, yeah. So I'm not sure, but like definitely like if the situation came upon, I maybe like I would adopt two or stuff. And, like I'm not with anybody at the moment, like in a relationship, but also too, like, I think if they're like, oh, I don't want kids, I think I would still be okay with that, but of course also too I think I would like to have kids at the same time, so I'm still,
it's more of a whatever happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
So let the destiny
exactly
run its course.
Yeah, so that's it, and not saying no to kids, but also I'm not sure. But I mean, like you said,
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Guys, it looks like we're getting to that time of the day.
I can't reach the gem.
Can you reach the gem? I can't reach the gem.
Somebody's got to reach the gem, bro.
So you're going to have to pick up that gem, Adrian. And we have this moment at the end of the episode that you bestow some knowledge to the people out there.
To the knowledge?
It could be anything.
Like
right
knowledge?
Now, I think with your...
it's more wisdom is what we're looking for. So it's drop a gem. So essentially, allow me to take control for a second,
okay.
Steve. This is the part of the show where we ask our guests to basically impart some wisdom upon the listeners. So, just life advice or just general wisdom, that's something you've learned in your life that's helped you along.
Some gem. I think I would say to always follow your heart. And maybe also to never give up even when things seem hard and stuff like that. And also to just follow your intuition and what you really want to do in life. And don't take no for an answer, because we can do anything we set our minds to. I guess that.
Awesome. I love that.
Pretty concise. I like it. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for watching another episode of the Hustle Podcast. We out.
Welcome, everybody. Y'all ready for this? The Hustle. My name is Steve Armopoulos, and these are my co-hosts.
I'm Talia. And I'm Luciano. You may have heard me on radio. You may have never heard of me at all, but that's okay.
Cause y'all gon' learn today. Your whole life was a struggle, had to make it out the jungle. This is a show for you. Welcome to the hustle. Under pressure, never break a fold. Keep chasing your goals until you